This call is now being recorded.
Okay. So, in the last lecture, whatever the theoretical part is there related to the chapter number 1, that is Introduction to the Industrial Engineering. In the last lecture, we have covered that particular part. So maybe in the last 2-3 lectures, we had discussion about the importance related to the work study. So how that particular work study is furtherly divided into the method study and the work measurement, and how the method study and the work measurement plays very in order to increase the productivity. And after that, in detail, whatever the important technique is there, that is work study or the method study, and their important role in order to increase the productivity. Maybe their components are there, maybe some their internal factor, external factors are there. Then in addition to that, the work study with work simplification and the human considerations in the work study. These 2 points also we have discussed in the last lecture. That means the work simplification means what happens sometimes. Many times we are introducing the new techniques, many times we are introducing the skilled operators, some standard machineries are we are implementing in the industry, but simultaneously implementation of that particular new techniques, it due to which your system becomes more and more complex. So in order to avoid such types of the situations, so whatever the work simplification concept is there, that work simplification concept we are going to apply in the industry along with work study. Already work study we have implemented in the industry, that is for the elimination of the unnecessary operations or to measure the standard time. Along with that, whatever the concept of the work simplification is there, that work simplification concept also we have to introduce in that particular industry, through which whatever the non-value additive operations are there, whatever the unnecessary operations are there, in order to avoid your system becomes more complex, whatever the such types of the difficulties are there, it can be avoided through this particular work simplification, and that part we have discussed in the last lecture. In addition to that, human considerations means your management, supervisor, and the workers or the operators. These are the 3 human considerations which we have to consider along with the work study. That means what is the role of management, what is the role of supervisor, and what is the role of the operator, and how to maintain the proper relation between them. Because the proper relation will not be maintained, how that particular human considerations will be affects on the performance of the work study or the performance of the method study or the work measurement. That also we have discussed in the last lecture. That is human consideration means work study and the management. In that we have discussed about the role of the management, which types of facilities should be provided to the workers and the supervisors, what decisions management has to take, that also we have discussed in the last. Then role of the supervisor, how to maintain the proper relation between the management and the worker, how to give the trainings, how to introduce the new techniques to the workers and the management. That role also we have discussed in the last lecture related to the supervisor. And last important thing is that the workers and the operators. So operators and the workers, these are plays very important role, because if that workers are doing their job in the effective manner, then only there is an improvement in the productivity. Therefore, whatever the new incentive schemes are there, whatever the additional wages are there, such types of the schemes we have to provide to that workers so they can work in the effective manner. That means human consideration, wherever the humans are there, human means management, supervisor, and the worker. So these are the 3 human considerations we have to implement along with the concept of work study. And in addition to that, in the last lecture we have started the problems on the productivity. Okay, so we are having the basic formula for the productivity. Total productivity is equal to total output upon the number of inputs. Input sources are available in the number of forms. Maybe your material is there, then man is there, capital investment is there, energy is there, equipments are there. So these are the number of input resources, but output is available in only one form, in the form of finished product and the finished goods. So based on that, in the last lecture we have started the problems based on the productivity. Just once again I will repeat the problem whatever we have covered in the last lecture. That is, whatever the problem, case number 1 is in front of you, it is related to the one production center is there, and the output of that particular production and the input of that particular production for the 3 months it is mentioned. So the first column is for the month, second column represents the input hours, how many hours machine is work, and according to that number of hours what is the output. So the month of September, month of October, and the month of November, in this particular 3 months they have represented the output of that particular production center. So for the September, October and the November, the inputs are given. So in the September it is 90,000, in the October 1,00,000, and in the November 1,50,000. These are the input resources. These are the input resources, and accordingly the outputs are represented by the last column, that is in the month of September 99,000, in the month of October 1 lakh, and in the month of November 1,35,000. This is the output. Means here the input is increases, and accordingly for that particular respective month the output is also increases. For example, in the September the input is 90,000 only, output is 99. In the month of October, input 1 lakh, output is also 1 lakh. That means there is no increasing productivity. And last month, November, here the input is 1,50,000, but output is only 1,35,000. Okay, so if we think about only output, if we will think about only output, the output is continuously increases from 99,000 to 1 lakh, from 1 lakh to 1,35,000. Means your production is continuously increases, your output is continuously increases. But if we think about the productivity cannot be increased, because in order to increase the output parameters, we have to increase the input hours also. If your input is constant 90,000, 90,000, 90,000 for all the month, and if your output is increases for the same input, then and then only we can say that your productivity can be increased. Now by using this particular table, we have calculated the productivity. So we are having the formula, total productivity of that particular machine is equal to output upon input. So initially the productivity of the September, output upon input, output is given 99,000, input 90,000, you will get the productivity 1.1. Then for the October, again output 1 lakh, input 1 lakh, you will get the productivity as a 1 only. And next, the productivity for the month of November is equal to 1,35,000 upon 1,50,000, and your productivity is 0.9. So from the month of September to month of November, initially productivity is 1.1, then it becomes 1, and finally it becomes 0.9. Means here we can say that your production is continuously increases, but there is no increase in productivity. There is a falling of the productivity, or there is a decrease in productivity. Why? Because in order to increase the output of that particular center, the input resources are also increased. If your input resource will be constant, then, and if your output will be increased, then we can say that for the constant input, your output is more and your productivity is also more. Therefore, in the last 2-3 lectures also we have discussed the term production and the productivity, they are not similar to each other. Sometimes production increases, productivity is also increases, but sometimes only production is increases and the productivity is goes on decreases. Why? Because in order to increase that production, we have increased the input parameters also. So in order to understand the difference between the production and the productivity, we have discussed this particular example in the last lecture only, because here you can see there is a continuous increase in input and there is a increase in output, but there is a decrease in the productivity. So this is the one more example we have discussed it in the last lecture also, but through this we can easily understood that the term production and the productivity are not similar to each other. And for this particular problem, for this particular statement, we can easily say that your production is rises, but the productivity is falling, or the productivity is decreases. So this is the case number 1, or the problem number 1 related to the productivity calculation. Now we'll discuss about the case number 2. So the case number 2, the problem is in front of you. So let us see the information regarding the output produced and input consumed for a particular time period for a particular company is given below. So one company is there, and that company is producing some amount of output in the form of product or in the form of finished goods, and in order to obtain that particular product, some inputs are also given, and which is represented by the below. You can see here the total output is given. The total output is in the form of rupees, that is 10,000. The total output of that particular company is 10,000, and in order to obtain that particular output, some inputs are given. In that first input is the human input. How much cost is there? 3,000. Then material input. How much cost is there? 2,000. Capital input. How much cost is there? 3,000. Energy input 1,000, and some other input also there, which is cost is of the 500. That means 1 2 3 4 5 total 5 inputs are there, and according to that particular 5 inputs you will get the output of 10,000. And what they are asked, the value are in terms of base year rupees value, compare various productivity indices. So the values are given in the form of rupees, and what they have asked, we have to compare their productivity. We have to calculate the productivity of that particular company. So if I have to calculate the productivity, initially I have to calculate the partial productivity also. What is mean by the partial productivity? We have discussed. Partial productivity is equal to total output upon required input. If I have to calculate the productivity of material, if I have to calculate the productivity of material only, so that productivity is equal to your total output upon material input. If I have to calculate the productivity of human, only human, then which is equal to total output upon human input. So initially I will calculate the partial productivity. So partial productivity, we are having the formula, total 5 inputs are there, and for each and every input I have to calculate the partial productivity. So the first, labor productivity. Labor productivity is equal to output upon human input. Labor means human. So total output is given 10,000. Human input is given 3,000. You will get the labor productivity is equal to 3.33. Similarly, second input, capital productivity, again which is equal to output upon capital input. So capital input is given 3,000. Total output is given 10,000. So you will get the capital productivity again 3.33. Then material productivity. So material is also one of the important resource. If I have to calculate his productivity, so again the total output upon material input. How much amount of material input is there? 2,000. Total output 10,000. So material productivity is equal to 5.00. Energy productivity. Again formula, how much energy input is there? 1,000. How much output is there? 10,000. So you will get the productivity as a 10. Then other productivity, some other input resources are also there. It will be considered in this other factor. So other productivity is equal to output upon other input. So value of other input is also given as a 500. So 10,000 upon 500, you will get the 20,000. So like that, we have calculated the partial productivity of each and every input by using the formula partial productivity is equal to total output upon required input. So this is also one of the calculation which is related to calculate the partial productivity. They have asked to compare or to calculate various types of productivity. Means we can calculate the partial productivity, we can calculate the total productivity, we can calculate the total factor productivity. So there are 3 types of productivities are there: partial, total productivity, and total factor productivity. Now whatever we have calculated just now, this is called as a partial productivity, which is calculated for the required input parameters. Whatever the input parameters are there, for all those inputs we have calculated the partial productivity. Now we'll calculate the total productivity. So in order to calculate the total productivity, we are having the formula total productivity is equal to total output upon total input. Total productivity is equal to total output upon total input. Therefore the formula is written again, total output upon total input means total 5 inputs are there, that is human, material, capital, energy, and other. So at the numerator I have taken the total output as a 10,000. At the denominator I have taken, or I have done the addition of total number of inputs, that is 3,000 plus 2,000 plus 3,000 plus 1,000 plus 5,000. That means total inputs are there. I have done the addition, and finally I have calculated the total productivity is equal to, you will get the answer of the total productivity is equal to 1.053. So this total productivity represents the productivity or total output of that particular organization or the total productivity of that particular company. So this is the second type of the productivity. Initially we have calculated partial productivity. This is the total productivity. Now we'll calculate the last factor or last productivity, which is called as a total factor productivity. It is also one of the type of productivity which we have to go for the calculation of the organization. Now, what is the formula for the total productivity? It is in front of you. Total productivity is equal to net output. Total factor productivity is equal to net output upon labor plus capital input. In the partial productivity, we have taken the formula total output upon required input. Only one input we have considered. In the second type, during the calculation of total productivity, we have taken the formula total output upon total input. That means whatever the 5 number of inputs are there, all the inputs we have considered for the calculation of total productivity. But while calculating TFP, means total factor productivity is equal to net output upon labor plus capital input. That means while calculating the total factor productivity, we have to consider the net output and we have to consider only 2 input resources. Which are those? One is the labor and another is the capital. So if I have to calculate the net output should be calculated by using the total output minus material and services purchased. Material and services purchased. Whatever the number of input resources are available, out of that number of input resources, those resources we can easily purchase, those services we can easily purchase only, or that particular services we have to subtract from the total output, and that subtraction you will get the net output. Please understand the difference between the net output and total output. Total output means whatever it is mentioned in the statement of the problem, 10,000, but net output is equal to total output minus material and services purchased. So whatever the 5 number of inputs are there, out of that particular 5 number of input resources, those resources are purchasable, we can easily purchase. That resources we have to subtract from the total output. For example, here I have written, assume the company purchase all the material services including energy, machine, equipment. For example, company can purchase the machine, company can purchase the energy, company can purchase the equipment, company can purchase some of the services, they can hire some of the another engineers also, means it is also one of the part of purchase. But whatever the capital investment is there, the capital input will not be purchased. The capital input will not be purchased. Therefore, the net output is equal to total output. How much? 10,000 minus material and services purchased. So out of the 5 input resources, here only 4 are subtracted. Out of the 5 input resources, only 4 are subtracted. Which are the 4? One is the labor, another is the material, then third one is the energy, and the fourth one is the other. So whatever the 5 inputs are given, human you can purchase, material you can purchase, capital it is not possible to purchase, we have to generate it, energy you can purchase, and other input resources also we can purchase. That means from this particular 10,000 I have to subtract human input, material input, energy input, and other input, and from that subtraction I will get the net output. And for that net output I have to divide by only 2 input resources, which is called as a labor plus capital. So labor input is given, means human 5,000, and capital input is also given 3,000. So at the denominator you will get the 3,000 plus 3,000, and by this particular calculation you will get the total factor productivity is equal to 0.583. so like that we have to calculate the TFP, which is equal to net output divided by labor plus capital input. So please keep in mind, net output means total output minus material and services can be purchased. Whatever the material we can purchase, whatever the equipment we can purchase, other services we can purchase, some labor, some energy we can purchase, that purchasable components we have to subtract from total output, and remaining value, whatever the value is remaining from that subtraction, that will be considered as a net output. And to this particular net output, if I will divide by labor plus capital input, you will get the total factor productivity. So these are the three types of productivity which we have to calculate in the industry or in the company or in the organization, and from that you can easily say that whether your productivity is increases or whether your productivity is decreases, because the productivity is one of the important and major tool to measure the efficiency and the effectiveness of the organization. If I have to check the output of any company, if I have to check the efficiency of any company, at that time which parameters I am checking? I am measuring their productivity. Out of that, first one is a partial productivity I can measure, then total productivity I can measure, and third one I can measure the total factor productivity. So if the question will be asked in the exam, that is compute the various types of the productivity, at that time we have to calculate the partial productivity according to the output and each input, then total productivity, total output upon total input, and TFP, that is total factor productivity, is equal to net output, which will be calculated from total output minus सर्व्हिसेस और इनपुट विच वी कॅन परचेस. जे जे काय परचेस करतो ते परचेस सगळे आपल्याला काय करायचं, टोटल आउटपुट मधून सबस्ट्रॅक्ट करायचं आहे, अँड व्हॉट एव्हर द व्हॅल्यू यू विल गेट, that value will be considered as a net output and divided by, this term is very important, for the total factor productivity only two inputs are considered. Out of that, one is the labor and another is the capital. So this will be the second problem based on this particular productivity calculation. And with this we have finished this particular chapter number 1, that is introduction to the industrial engineering. So in this particular chapter we have started with very basic point, that is what is the role of industrial engineer or what is the role of industrial engineering in the organization. So we have started with the basic introduction part, then we have discussed about the so many definitions are there, that definitions also we have discussed. Then we have discussed about the major contributions of the two scientists. One is the F.W. Taylor, who has contributed this particular concept. Then Gilbert is also one of the scientists who has contributed towards the industrial engineering in the form of method study, motion study, micro motion study, and the time study. So these are the some important techniques which are developed by the F.W. Taylor and the Gilbert. Then we have discussed about the important objectives of the productivity. Again, then we have started with the productivity concept. In that we have discussed about the role of the productivity, their important definitions, their objectives, their formulas, then factors affecting on the productivity, internal factor, external factor, which is also called as a controllable and the non-controllable factor. That factor also we have discussed. Then some important techniques which are used to improve the productivity, means technology based, human based, material based, productivity based, task based. That block diagram is also we have discussed in the detail. And then we have discussed about the important 4 techniques. In that, first one is a that Kaizen, Heijunka, and work study, and Judoka. So these out of first 3 techniques are the Japanese techniques which will be implemented in the industry. But nowadays, whatever the work study, it is one of the important tool which is used to increase the productivity. And again, in detail, we have discussed that particular work study in detail in the form of method study and the work measurement, because work study, it is the concept which is divided into the 2 sub points. In that, first one is a method study and second one is a work measurement. Method study means eliminate the unnecessary operations, and work measurement means eliminate the ineffective time. Then we have discussed about the detailed procedure of the work study, because if we have to implement the concept of work study in the industry, what is the detailed procedure that detailed procedure also we have discussed in the last 2-3 lectures. And then the work study with work simplification concept, human considerations in the work study concept, that also we have discussed in the yesterday's lecture, also we have discussed in the today's lecture. And then we have solved the two numericals or the two problems based on the calculation of the productivity. The first numerical we have discussed related to the comparison between the production and the productivity, and the second numerical we have discussed or we have solved related to the calculation or comparison of different types of productivity. In that we have calculated partial productivity, then we have calculated total productivity, and then we have calculated TFP, that is total factor productivity. And with this we have finished this particular chapter, that is chapter number 1, Introduction to Industrial Engineering.